money. Money, 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 money and arts, money and creativity, money and creative entrepreneurship. This is a hot topic and something that I feel that we need to talk much more about. So today, this talk with Arts Dynamics Talks, we're going to dedicate a whole full hour on the topic of money, but more than just monetization and how to make money, but actually the game behind the game, the inner side of making money and holding on to money and how we use money to sustain the mission. I'm Sophie Marin, I'm founder and CEO of Arts Dynamics, and I'm really passionate about empowering creators and to help you listening in here to really find ways forward to create, to market, to sell, to make a living doing what you love. And every week I've got the great privilege of tuning in to see what's happening in the world and to speak with leading thought leaders and experts in the field of creative entrepreneurship, technology, business for impact. And today, oh my God, today you're in for a treat. You will meet a dear friend, a mentor, and someone who's come to mean so much to me, someone I met when I actually was part of an accelerator program, and he was a mentor of mine. And some of the things he shared then were just so profound, and we kept on keeping and staying in contact since. And here we are now. It's surreal even. Chet Morjaria, a very, very warm welcome to you.
Such a pleasure to be speaking with you on this today, Sophie. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. You are a 2 times best-selling author. You are a business mentor. You are the co-founder of Freedom, which is a business mastermind for visionary leaders and coaches. What you don't know about visionary, spiritual entrepreneurship and leadership, I don't know if anyone knows any more than that. So if I can say that. And I'm just so curious to know more about you, your story. Obviously, I know a little bit because we've spoken before, but I would love to introduce you to our community and for them to get to know you a little bit better too. So, my first question is always, Chet, tell us more about you. What's your story?
Cool, happy to. And yeah, this whole idea of who we are, right? Who we are and how we express that into the world, how we show up in the world, I feel that's going to be a theme as we continue in our discussion today. So my story is one of, in a nutshell, sacrificing who I am and who I was for perceived success until I couldn't anymore. So I have to start right at the beginning, really, because all of this stuff starts at the beginning. It starts when we're younger and how we pick up the notions, the ideas, the behaviors, the beliefs that then drive us in art and in entrepreneurship and in everything, right? And so for me, I am born of 2 Indian parents who lived in Africa, and they got kicked out of Africa by Idi Amin years before they had me and came over to the UK. So generationally, in my history is this idea of, oh, wow, okay, so you need to hide. This is what my parents had to do, right? Hide who you are, hide away, sacrifice yourself, sacrifice everything that you've created in order to build a life for yourself, in order to build a life for your family, in order to provide, in order to survive even. Inherited not just from my parents, but even generationally before that. And so, of course, then coming into this world and growing up with all my dad, my mom, my aunts, my uncles, and it's an Indian family, right? There are lots of aunts and uncles. So all of those people being self-made business people, self-made entrepreneurs, and seeing them, because of the beliefs that they inherited, sacrificing themselves, sacrificing their freedom, sacrificing their fun, sacrificing all the good stuff in life along the way, feeling like they had to in order to make ends meet. And I inherited those beliefs. I took on those beliefs without even realizing. And so, in my early years, in my teens, that was my MO. That's how I went about my life. That's how I went about my studies. And I remember that time. Like, I remember that time in my early teens of just thinking that I had to really work really hard to the exclusion, genuinely, like to the exclusion of everything else, relationships, friends, food, just immerse myself in this work. That's how you achieve. That's how you get good grades. That's how you get success. And inevitably, then that's how you become respected and loved and all the stuff that humans need, right? And so I did. And I did that in my early teens. And something else, actually, I feel really cool to share with you today. I've never shared this before publicly. So this story was so deep in me, this idea of sacrifice, that in my secondary school, I moved to a private secondary school, and we couldn't afford that. But my parents really valued education. And so I actually ended up getting a scholarship for this school, which is the only reason that I could go to this school. And my parents, from a place of love, said to me, okay, look, Chet, we know you've got this scholarship, but if you share that you have this scholarship with your friends, you're going to get bullied. You're going to get beaten up. Now, if we step back from that and just consider what's going on there, what am I being told? What am I being shown there? I'm being shown that, hey, if you share your gifts and achievements, if you share what makes you special with the world, you're going to get ridiculed. Oh, shit. That's something that then continued, right? And so got to the point where I was in my late teens, and I guess like most people in their late teens and early 20s, I was like, I'm not sure about this. Time to push the edges on this. And so I did. I found fun and friends and relationships and love and, you know, all the things that you do as a young adult, and kind of flipped. So I was like, okay, cool. Well, this is the stuff, and this is the stuff that is life. But then the work suffered. And so it started to shift between this idea of, okay, like you have to sacrifice in order to find success, to there's a choice. You've either got to sacrifice, or you can have the good stuff. And it's one or the other, because I didn't do so well in my A levels that in those 2 years. It kind of messed them up. But luckily got into a really cool university, like a great university, St Andrews in Scotland, and one of the top universities. And interestingly enough, with the topics we're talking about today, business, humans, money, technology, I got to this point where my family and everyone was around me was telling me to do computer science as my degree. And I didn't want to do computer science as my degree. And we negotiated computer science and management, because business has always been a thing for me. Fascinated about business, seeing business honestly as as something that is representative of everything. I feel that I said it even when I was at uni, that I feel like my business degree, my management degree, was a degree in anthropology, in sociology, in psychology, in all the ologies. I really feel that business represents all of that stuff. But anyway, negotiated that, got into my first week of computer science. And at the time, in the late 90s, they were teaching computer science through an old training language that wasn't even representative of technology in that era, in that day. And it just didn't click with me. It didn't vibe with me. For me, technology is a life form. Technology is something that is alive. Technology is something that we meet in the moment and we interface together and we co-create with it. And so I think even at that young age, not consciously, but I realized that technology taught in that way, technology taught in a way that felt like it was dead, when it's not is like, that makes technology dead to me. I don't want to, I don't want to interface with technology in that way. And so I ended up focusing in on business and psychology, business and humans. And this intersection holds through with me to this day. Took that to a master's level, ended up graduating in management, an MA in management, and then went out into the world of work. But this idea of sacrifice, these things that we're going to talk about this so much, I think, today, like in business, in money, that these subconscious layers that we pick up in our youth run deep. And until we really meet them, until we really understand them and meet them and explore them and integrate them, they continue to show up in loops. And so this continued to show up for me, this idea of sacrifice. I went into corporate world and I did some amazing stuff there. I was really good at anything that I took up in the corporate world, honestly. But at the same time, there was always this layer of sacrifice. So for example, when I was working in business and sales, I was doing 80, 100-hour weeks because there was just something in me, even though I was at the top of my game, winning awards, that something in me that told me that wasn't enough and that I needed to sacrifice in order to at that point, it wasn't even find success, but it was in order to be respected and to be connected and to be loved. And so it was either that, or from there, I actually ended up moving into some work for a while that I wasn't really connected into the work. But again, it was feeling like I had to sacrifice myself and who I am and what I really want in order to tread the path. And it just got to the point where along the way, I was figuring out, well, this just isn't it. I need to share my voice. I need to share what I believe. And in that moment, I was naturally skilled at communicating and especially writing, and really, really passionate about health and fitness. And the scene in health and fitness in the UK in the early 2000s was quite young. And so I started speaking into that stuff. I like coaching and teaching is in my blood. It's something that feels like such a vehicle for expression and meaning and impact and mission in this world. And so I started exploring that, and through the technology of the internet and its vibrancy at that time, which was a small world, I think, at that time in the early 2000s, really started to make a name for myself very quickly by sharing what I believe to be true in a way that might not have been representative of what the rest of the world was saying. And so I started to but really just sharing my truth and sharing my beliefs and sharing my perspectives, and doing that mostly through a platform called Breaking Muscle, which is this huge health and fitness website. And I started off just at the end of my corporate days as a guest writer, ended up becoming global managing editor of that particular organization. And that really fueled me in terms of, okay, so there is money to be made. There's meaning to be had. Like, you can infuse these ideas of meaning and money and what is important and true to you. And the more that you actually speak into and express yourself, the more you understand yourself, the more that you evolve those ideas, the more that people come to you, the more that you find success. Oh, this was a new world. So I exited corporate with this notion in my backpack, and just moved fully into this idea of coaching. And that started coaching in health and fitness, and then built a coaching business, coaching coaches, because this is how I felt that I could make an impact in this world. And along the way, I think I was just following the usual business conventions of how to build a business. Was following you build a website, and then people come to you through that website, and then you build these funnels and you take people through your programs. Okay, cool. But along the way, it felt something was off. Like, it felt really like I was pushing against the grain. It felt restrictive and limiting. And I couldn't quite put my finger on like what wasn't right. And I was making, this was like a six-figure business in its first year, this thing that people talk about, right? And okay, cool. But it just didn't feel like I was able to express myself fully. It felt like I had more to give. It felt like the structures of how we're told to do business, and therefore how I was doing business, were constraining me. And so I needed to find something different. And so I, through divine intervention, happened across my now very good friend and business partner, Matt Hirsch. And we had a discussion because he was doing some work for a kids fitness company. And I'd been a customer of them. I'd done a course with them. And so he was doing a customer survey. And so we connected up. I didn't end up talking about any of the stuff that we were supposed to talk about. We're probably going to do the same, I'm sure, Sophie. But we actually ended up, I knew that I needed someone like him who had this kind of visionary perspective on business. And he was looking for someone like me, someone who is, we didn't really know that we were looking for each other, but someone who is really just ready to open up into the next layer of what this game of business and life and entrepreneurship even means. And so we connected up. Within a month, I had him in the UK, paying his consultant fees to have him over in the UK for 3 or 4 weeks. Best investment I ever made. And what was so interesting is that he was just coming out of corporate consulting. And so for a moment there, for the first 2 days, actually, we did the stuff. We did the competitive analysis, the customer analysis. Like, we just started to get into this stuff that you're taught to do. And then we just felt like we were going around in circles. And on day 3, we centered in on something which to this day is the center of my world and my work. And we took a moment and we said, okay, look, what's going on here? What is the one thing here that really is driving everything? What's the one thing that, if we understand it, if we deep dive into this, makes all the other stuff make sense? And of course, it was nothing to do with business. It was to do with us as humans. It's to do with ourselves. And it's to do with how we connect into ourselves and how we connect into people, and the mission of that, the impact of that, and the result of that work on the world. And so we centered in on the notion of superpower. And it's this idea that, okay, so what if everyone has a superpower? A superpower that is a result of nature and nurture, a superpower that is how they are naturally gifted into this world. And we just see that as a universal thing. Everyone has that superpower. And if we actually understand the nature of that superpower, and we understand not just what our work is, but how our gifts inform our work, how who we are informs what we do. And then we look at, okay, that's our superpower. That's who we are and how we are. Now, who needs that? And how do they need that? So who are the people that need your superpower the most in this world? Who are your people? Who are the people that need the value that you naturally bring to the world the most? Because this isn't choosing a niche. This isn't picking your avatar. This isn't, this isn't analysis, nor is it just like picking something out of thin air. It's truly recognizing what you're bringing to this world and understanding who needs that. The sweet spot of those two things. What else is there? That's success, fulfillment, fun, ease, alignment, freedom, money, creativity, everything. And honestly, like I'm saying it now with hindsight, but it felt like that to me in the moment too. This idea of how you do what you do best and who needs that the most. And in the sweet spot of that, it felt like the keys to the kingdom. And it still feels like the keys to the kingdom to me. It feels so central to unlocking everything else. And so Matt and I built businesses from this, first separately and then together, and built, structures around teaching coaches and creators and consultants and entrepreneurs how to build businesses based on who they are, businesses with meaning and impact. That sweet spot of we can have them both. We can do work that is meaningful to us and have massive impact and get paid for that, because income is a byproduct of impact. Cool. Okay. And then after that, realized that, well, actually we can do that because there were still little layers of sacrifice running through both of us. We can do that, and we can do that and have freedom of expression and vision and life and energy and evolution along the way. And so what we do and who we work with now are visionary coaches and creators and entrepreneurs, people who know that they are here to be themselves. They are here to be the mold and not follow the mold, and help them to live their vision through their business, live their values through their business, help them to find value through their values, and build businesses that reflect all of who they are, bring all of themselves to the table sustainably, soulfully, successfully, and help people to see and help people to build powerful, profitable businesses without sacrificing their soul. And in fact, understanding that the more that you fully express your essence, your superpower, your truth, the more that you live in the natural rhythms, the more that you serve the mission that you are here to serve, the more aligned, easeful, and sustainable and successful your business becomes.
Wow. I mean, what a powerful story. Thank you so much for sharing. I hope everybody who's listening in, you see the journey of transformation that you've gone through too. And I know this resonates with a lot of our members, our community members, where you start off in one direction and then you just feel something, like you said, something feels a little bit off. You can't really put your finger on it. And we are being told so very often what to do, how to be, what we can and what we can't do, or what we should do. Yeah. And I think especially within arts and music and culture, there is this stigma around monetization. And even because a lot of arts and culture is also being funded, from public funding and that kind of income streams for many. There are many nonprofits, many grassroots initiatives, many volunteers even working in this space. So on the one hand, when we're talking about monetization and making it work as you said, purpose-driven, mission-led artist creator, yeah, it's like you have the system where you have public funding and that kind of support. But on the other hand, to be entrepreneurial and to think about generating your own income streams, I'm finding more and more that there are clashes between the two. So given what you just shared, how you embraced who you are and you're superhuman, as you said, your superpower, what would you say, based on your experience and the people that you're coaching and teaching, for people who feel like, okay, I am being called to do more, and I just don't know really where to start. I can't put my finger on it. Something is a little bit off, but I don't know where to start. Where do they start, Chet?
Okay. I think we could take this in one of two ways, Sophie. Let's see where we want to take it. Because you've spoken to two things there. One thing was this clash between creativity and cash. Mm-hmm. And the other was where to start with this. My sense, if you're cool with this, is that if we speak into the clash between being creative, being yourself, and making money from this, and really what's behind and underneath all of this, then as we go through that and following on from that, we can naturally talk into how to put this into action, and maybe we do it in that way. How does that sound?
I think it sounds absolutely brilliant. And I also want to say hello to everybody who's tuning in live. It's so wonderful to see you here. Feel free to drop a comment, let us know who you are, where you're from. If you've got any questions, submit them live. You can also tune in and listen to the podcast. It might be that you're actually listening to the replay in the podcast, or you might be a member of Arts Dynamics and you're actually listening to this inside our membership hub. Either way, there are comment areas and sections, and would love to hear from you also, your biggest takeaways after today. And let's open up a conversation around money. But going back to you, yes, let's do that. Money, cool. And cash and clash. What did you say?
Yeah, good. Cash, clash, creativity. Right. Okay, cool. So let's continue on this thread. In that, what did we just talk about there? What coming through my story there were themes of, first of all, sacrifice, right? And let's just meet that, first of all, that idea of sacrifice for service, sacrifice for success. And you'll have heard that that was a theme that ran through me in my early years, until I realized one way or another that this was the thing that was driving me subconsciously. So herein lies one thing that is going to be important to us one really important thing as we move into the discussion of creating money around meaning, creating money around our work, is that it's really easy, Sophie. I think you'll say this too. It's actually really easy to teach strategy around this stuff. You and I'm sure, could teach someone how to make a good amount of money in a single day. You know, create a cash injection in a single day. Cool. The problem lies in everything that comes with that and everything that comes after that. So the problem lies in, how do you feel about that money coming in? Who do you feel you have to be in terms of earning that money? How does that impact you, your quality of life, your quality of work, your ability to deliver for your people? And how do you make that sustainable? Like, how do you do that in a way which feels good to you, which allows that money to continue to flow in, which allows it to come through in a way that is enjoyable and efficient and effective and easeful, and doesn't feel like you're sacrificing yourself in the process? And so the point really that I'm making here is that we don't need to sacrifice who we are in order to get paid for our work. And in fact, isn't it the opposite? Isn't this what... Yeah, let me get into this. Ready to go a bit deeper?
Of course, always.
Cool, I knew you would be. So what is the most... What do we want here? We want to do our work in a way that is impactful, potent, powerful, profitable, and we want to enjoy life along the way and have fun and freedom and fulfillment. I would say that's a relatively universal desire, right? In this world that we're in. Okay, cool. So in order to do that, we need to honestly see that all of this stuff that we're talking about, life, business, entrepreneurship, art, technology, are not separate things. They're the same things. What I mean by that is that isn't art at its best us expressing the full truth of who we are and our truth, unfettered and unfiltered, in a way that others are able to receive and connect into their truth and maybe create, co-create even in that moment where that art is received by the person or people who are receiving it. And that happens, right, when there is full expression. That happens when there is exploration of things that are significant and important and alive and emerging. And so to me, art, entrepreneurship, technology, they're all this. They're a sacred loop. Art, entrepreneurship, technology, a sacred loop of understanding who we are, of exploring who we are, of expressing who we are, of evolving who we are, and continuing to do that through our work, through the ways that we show up in this world. And if that's true of art and entrepreneurship, and technology assists us in that process, then what becomes true is that, oh, okay, so this is a game of being in full expression. This is a game of exploration and evolution. So we need to do this stuff in a way, we need to do business and entrepreneurship in a way which allows for that, which allows for us to be in our full expression, which allows for evolution, because this is who we are as humans and as a human race, right? That we evolve and adapt. That's literally who we are and how things progress. And experimentation is the beautiful mechanism through which we get to do that along the way. So what if we could do that and get paid for it? What if we can fully express ourselves, experiment, live into our highest expression, our highest mission, continue to evolve what that even means and looks like, and get paid for it? Well, surely that is the game, because anything outside of that, if none of this is separate anyway, and if living and being and exploring and evolving, well, hold on. What if I could get paid for that? What if I could get paid for being me and expressing that out into the world? Well, oh, hold on. Now I'm in a place where I'm not treating like business and life as separate, but I'm coming from this place where I get to do the things that I do best. I get to have the experiences in life that serve me, my mission, and my people, and help me to understand more about my world and my work. I get to have fun doing that. I get to have freedom doing that. I get to be fulfilled in doing that and bringing that back to the world. And I get to be financially rewarded for that, because that financial reward is a byproduct of full expression, deep value, deep connection, deep impact with the people who are 2 steps behind me and who are ready to understand what all of that means and looks like for them. Surely that is the most authentic, the most natural, the most powerful, the most easeful way of doing business, because otherwise we have to choose. Otherwise we have to choose between, oh, okay, I'm working now. Oh, okay, I'm living now. Okay. Oh, okay, I have to express part of myself in this work, but then I'll go and just like live my full life over here. Well, what if just one could inform the other? What if one could be the other? So I put it to you and to everyone that getting paid to be you is the best thing ever. Like, yeah. how could it not be better? And by corollary of that any business model, any untruth, any subconscious driver, any suppression or limitation on being ourselves is something that requires frustration and tension to maintain. It takes energy not to be ourselves.
Can I throw something in there, Chet? Because I can already hear some people saying, okay, yeah, that's all well and good. You know, I am who I am. I know who I am. You know, I'm pouring my heart and soul into my art, but dot, dot, dot. Here we are right now. We're living in a time where AI is taking over. I don't get paid for my work. I'm not being valued enough for what I do. All the old ways that I used to monetize, they don't work anymore. I'm being expected to be an entrepreneur and to do all these things. All I want to do is just to create. And there is this demand that I should just be, a jack of all trades, but I'm exhausted. So I hear them on the one hand saying, it sounds all well and good, but it's like, give me the tactics, tell us how to do this. So one is you're saying, yes, be authentic and genuine and being your true self. And from your perspective, you can see that is 100% a way to conduct business as a purpose-driven soul, heart, that kind of a person. But the question is, Chet, on a practical level, how do you then translate this into the world of business? How do you translate that into actually making the money?
Cool. So actually relatively straightforward. Here it is. Okay. So if this is all about being who we are, being ourselves, being genuine, being authentic, then that's where we start. And we treat life and business as this continual evolution of understanding who we are and how we do what we do best. But that's not enough to make money, right? So what else is there? Okay. So in order to make money, we need to find the point in order to make money from that, we need to find the point where that is providing value into the world, right? And in order to provide value into the world, well, we need to take that essence, that energy, that creativity, and apply it to the people who need it the most. So this is the second part of the puzzle. First part is understanding who we are and continuing to do that. Second part is who are the right people for us? Who are the people who will, if we're talking like financially, let's just cut to the language here, the people who will pay us the most for the work that we do, right? Well, they'll pay us the most for the work that we do if this is most valuable to them, if this is extremely valuable to them, if this solves their deepest problems, if this meets them where they are, if this helps them to understand themselves better, if this has a great impact on them. And that sweet spot, like we said right at the beginning, is the intersection of who we are and the people who need it the most. So really, in essence, it's understanding and continuing to understand who we are, using those superpowers and gifts to serve the deep needs of the people who need that the most. So it's understanding who they are, which is how we met. And thirdly, shaping, and we can get into this, shaping our world and work to do as much of that work as possible. Makes sense?
It makes sense. And again, I'm just reporting back what I'm picking up from previous conversations. I can hear many of the community members ask this. And it's like, okay, thank you. That's great. What does it mean then for me as a photographer, as a musician, as a performing artist? How can I make sure that my work is being valued, that here I am, I'm standing on stage, or I'm performing, or I'm shooting a film, I'm a film producer, whatever it might be, or a designer. I value my work. I know it is important for the world, but the world doesn't value what I do, or at least I'm not being paid for it. Either I'm not being paid at all, or I'm being paid very little. But they're still doing what they're being called to do. This is something I hear a lot about, especially now with AI, generative AI, all these new technological tools that are coming and are also now taking over a lot of the things that artists used to do in the past. Yeah. So I would just love from your perspective, because I also know you work a lot with artists and creators, and you're an author yourself. So it's like, how do we value art? I mean, really from a monetary side, to pay for art, but for artists to actually be able to remain to be artists and not having to take a side job or two or three in order for them to sustain their creative work or artistic work. Because creativity and creative and artist is not the same. I think often there is a confusion that because you're creative, you're an artist, and vice versa. They are two different things, but they are very strongly linked. So anyway, I just want to throw that to you because we have so many of them in this community. And I just would love to see from your end how you translate what you just said, what kind of advice you would want to give them.
Yeah, okay. Let's take a moment with this.
It's a big question. Yeah.
Let's make sure we understand the problem here. So they're expressing themselves into the world, but they're just not receiving for it. They're not receiving the financial reward for that.
Yeah, they're losing clients. They're losing. When I ask them, I say, "What is your biggest problem right now? What is your biggest challenge?"
Exactly.
They're losing clients. They're losing paid work. If they're doing public, if they are applying for jobs within the government or publicly funded work, then other competitors can go in and actually see what they applied for, and then they are being undercut and they lose jobs out of that. If they are being commercial and selling, then who would then pay? Especially now with copyright being such a hot topic too, with AI and everything. So this is a real problem that many are facing in the creative space. And that's also why I really wanted to open up the beginning of a conversation. This is really just a start. And for people listening in as well, I really want to open up together with Chet, because Chet understands both the money game. You're very successful yourself. You work a lot with high performers, high achievers, but it's also the mental game, the spiritual game. So so that's what I'm picking up. They are having trouble monetization. They're having trouble with the monetization. They feel that they're not being valued. They don't have enough recurrable, consistent revenue coming in from their artistic work. So where is the money then to 2025 moving forward?
Yes, cool. I'm
pausing
because there are so many layers to this, and yes. I really hear yours and your people's desire for the how. And
show us the money. Where is the money?
Show us the money. Yes. Yeah, and I'm pausing because I'm just reflecting on being able to provide the hows in the context of what makes this truly applicable, truly sustainable for them. So I'm just going to take a moment here to tune in to that. Yeah. Okay. I think there are two things that we can look at here. One is, and you can tell me what you think here, Sophie. One is we can get into that framework that I just talked about. So it feels to me, and you tell me, that the breaking point here is that we're not really connecting. Like, there's a disconnect between getting this work out there and people receiving and paying for this work. Like, who is this for? And how does it meet them? And how does it connect with them in a way that they're willing to pay for it? So that's one discussion. And the other discussion here, which is the one that really and truly fuels that discussion, and that most people, many may not want to hear, is that just as in business, in entrepreneurship, what drives us to continue to operate in cycles of frustration and fatigue and scarcity and struggle are the things that are subconsciously driving us, the things that we don't realize. The same is true for money. And that syndrome that you talk about for artists, I call it the starving artist syndrome. And that starving artist syndrome, I'm sorry, I just don't believe that it's because artists don't have the resources to make money, or even potentially the knowledge on how to make money. But I believe it runs deeper in us. I believe that starving artist syndrome is real. That it feels like to many that there is a contradiction and a clash between being who they are, putting their best work out into the world, being in their full expression, and making money, to the point where there might even be actually there's a subconscious rejection of money, because there's maybe this notion of, well, okay, this is art, like mission, God-given talent, art, creativity. This is pure, and money is impure. And if we make money from this, well, then that doesn't make sense. Like something in them, it doesn't make sense, and so they're subconsciously rejecting money even coming in. And I know that if you're listening to this, you'll be like, hell no, I'm not rejecting money. Show me the money. Give me the money. But if you're open to it, and I know it's not what you're directly asking here, but I believe it's the most impactful gift that I can provide to your listeners here. If you're open to it, I'd love to take a 5 to 10 minute exploration on this, because where we will end up after this discussion is at a place of actually being able to connect up money and mission in a way that allows you to create what you want to create and get paid for it, because you are now creating in a way which is truly allowing the impact, value, potency, power of your work to be received.
Yes, let's dive deep. This is a starting point, as we said. This is exactly what I wished for when it comes to this session today. So thank you so much, Chet. Yes, with all your wisdom and your experience in this field, please walk us through your next 5-10 minutes of just guide us through this, because I do know there are a lot of we always have a lot of questions around the how. And that is also why I wanted to invite this conversation to talk about the deeper layers. Because as you said, technically, there are so many ways we can make money. We can make money within the next 24 hours. There are various ways to make money. But at the same time, the struggle is also real. So I'll say, Chet, take it away.
Cool. And thanks for framing it like that, Sophie. And look, if we want to get into the hows, we totally can. We can continue this in some way, shape, or form with anyone who is interested in that. This I truly believe, because this is what we're about to talk about is the thing that through all my years of business, of entrepreneurship, of making money, of building multiple super successful businesses and helping clients to do the same, is the one thing that that we have found that limits. It's the thing that limits people from making money the most. And what we have found through implementing this work is that money unlocks in their lives and business immediately from this unlock of understanding why you're not making money in the first place. And it goes like this. Most of us weren't really taught about money, meaning education-wise, we're not taught about money, but also when it comes to how we get taught about money, we don't get taught about money. We get conditioned around money, just the same way as we might be bringing things through from our upbringing that then carry through into our business. And so many of us are creating, like our creation is suffocated and restricted by what we think we should be creating, rather than what we create at our fullest. And many of us entrepreneurially are running businesses and building lives based on those old beliefs. Now I'm going to give you some examples here. So let's see. If we, you know how we talked about life, entrepreneurship, business, art not being separate. Like this idea of separation is really important because a lot of us subconsciously are treating money as separate to ourselves. And here's what I mean. So I'm going to speak into a few common money subconscious drivers, the things that are actually driving how we're making money or not making money without us even realizing it. And you can tune in, and whoever is listening can tune in and see whether some of these stories might be stories that they have been told or that they're telling themselves. And if they are, then we know one thing, that we're keeping money separate from us. We're keeping money away from us. So it works a little something like this. Maybe you got told or you got conditioned through your life that, well, if you care about money, if you're money first in any way, then you're selling out. It's a sellout. That actually it's gross or greedy to actually want more money than you need, that then puts food on the table. Maybe even to the point that maybe in your upbringing, like you looked at, or you kind of looked at people who had a lot of money and somehow put them in a box of being greedy or dirty or, you know, like, or something that is just separate, fake, whatever it might mean. Well, what's going to happen here? Now, this is going deep, but what's going to happen here if those are the subconscious stories, and I know that I recognize some of them from early on in my career. And so, okay, if these are the money stories that we have, unless we recode money into something that feels more connected to us, something that feels more part of us, something that feels like something that we truly desire and can create from a place of wholeness and create from a place of like it is our mission to make money. That might be a really hard sentence to say for people. Okay, well, if we're treating money like this, if money makes you feel greedy or fake or whatever it might be, then what happens? Well, rejecting money makes you feel pure. So of course you're going to reject money, because with money then comes a notion of shame. It's shameful to have money. So this makes it really hard for us to make money. Here's another example. And there's a ladder to this. There's a levels of money consciousness, which is a framework, a proprietary framework of ours that we lean on in order to support with increasing your levels of consciousness around money, your ability to attract money effectively, right? Okay, well, let's take the next level. So what if you feel that if you charge too much, you won't be liked? If you charge too much, people won't like it. People won't like you. People won't love you. That when you charge, you feel like you're indebted to someone. You feel like you're indebted to them. You feel like you have to give so much of yourselves to them. Well, then you have this relationship where money makes you owe, that you have to give to feel worthy. And with money comes guilt then. So you've got this sense of shame and or this sense of guilt coming through when you are working your way to receive money. So we can continue, but what does this mean here? It means that subconsciously these drivers are running the show, that until we find ourselves meeting these money stories and what we call recoding your money story to understand that actually can we get to a point? This is a great exercise for people to do. Can you get to a point where you say these words that I'm about to say, and say it where you don't flinch or cringe or curl up inside? Here's your first phrase. I want money. I want money. Can you say that from your root? Can you say that in a way that your body believes that you want money? Second phrase, if you can do that. I love money. I love money. Can you say that? Honestly, try it. Say it now, out loud. Say it now. If you're thinking, I can't say it out loud because XYZ person is here, well, that's interesting. But close the door, whatever you need to do. I want money. I love money. If you can say that, and first of all, not cringe, flinch, curl up, but actually say it in a way that you can feel it, then we're at a place where we are truly calling money in to ourselves through our work. And if you can't, then we have some work to do, because we need to be able to create from a place of embodiment. Your system can't generate or receive or hold more money if part of you believes it's not safe to. If part of you believes that we are going to be shamed for it, we're going to be rejected for it, because actually what our body believes when we are holding those are, if we're going to be shamed for making money, if that's a shameful thing, and you saw how that was part of my story, I got a scholarship and that was a shameful thing, right? Until I understood that, met that, and did the work on that, how does that play out in our body? It plays out that if you are ostracized and ridiculed, in our ancestry, you get killed for that. It's really unsafe. And how does this come back full circle? It comes back full circle because then, although you might be thinking, well, this is my full expression, I'm expressing myself fully through my work. You're not expressing yourself fully through your work. You're expressing who you think you need to be through your work. And if you do that in any way, if you do that on social media, who you think you need to be, you're going to get drowned out by the noise. If you do that in like what I think I'm supposed to say, how I think I'm supposed to build business models, they will feel frustrating. They will feel limiting. You won't be able to bring your full self through your work. If you can't bring your full self through your work, you can't get paid fully for your work, because getting paid fully for your work relies on bringing your full self through your work. If you bring your full self through your work, naturally, like what happened to me and you, Sophie, this is how our relationship formed and is forming. I brought myself in my fullest, in my full expression, in a mentorship that I was doing to a group which included you. And in that group, we got to a point where we didn't get to a point. In an instant, it was this point where you could tell that, oh, this person is thinking differently. This person is expressing himself to the fullest. This person is embodied and integrated in everything that I value. And probably some part of you is like, well, I like that. I want that. I need that. I am that. And so there was a connection that's formed there. We now have this bond, Sophie, that is going all sorts of places, right? And it's that kind of bond that is the basis of everything good. It's the basis of connecting and co-creating. It's the basis of people paying you for your work. Because if we want to get paid for this important work, then it needs to feel important to the other person. And that is based on this really, this full unapologetic expression, understanding that being in that, and then understanding, well, who are my people? And how do I allow myself to, how do I find those people, and how do I allow myself to really form a relationship with these people where I am able to, and this depends, what I'm about to say kind of depends on your work, but where I am able to either meet them with the feelings and frustrations they have through my work and my art, or if you're in more of a coaching and mentorship type of a role, then create a space that is open and safe enough that we can explore with them what is really important to them, what their deepest pains and problems and frustrations are, and how to meet that through our work. So that's the mini deep dive. And noticing the time, but also wanting to meet anything that feels like it's still alive and real and remaining, even if that's like, okay, cool, now I understand that. On top of that, what's your advice for X, Y, Z? So tell me what still feels real and relevant, Sophie, now that we've done a deep dive into what I feel truly is most important when it comes to this work.
Yeah, I feel the same. And I want to acknowledge Roland said a powerful message. Thank you, Roland. Really appreciate Roland is one of our members and mentors too within the community. So thank you so much for that. What comes to mind, Chet, when you go deep like this is I wrote down, don't skip steps. Because you and I got into, and I get the goosebumps now, with the tingling, which always tells me that we need to just talk about this a little bit. So for people who are, we've just gone about an hour, but we're going to just complete this conversation, just like you said, Chet. I really appreciate that because this is important. So often we go into the tacticals. And what comes to mind based on what you're saying is that my advice, what I want to also just give back to the community is that if you keep on having monetary challenges, and God knows I can wholeheartedly relate to that as an entrepreneur, it is a completely different ball game going out of a limb, following your vision, following a higher calling to do something and to build a business around that. I've had high positions too. I've been extremely well paid over the years. Even as a consultant or speaker trainer. But the minute I started a business, something shifted. And it's like being in the boxing ring and just trying to survive sometimes, just to figure out how it works. But it's part of the game. It's the game that's been chosen. So what comes to mind, as I said, is if we keep on having the same issues over and over and over, then it isn't the how, it isn't the tactics, it isn't even the strategy. Actually, it is what you just said. Maybe then it is time to just pause for a while, be comfortable being uncomfortable, and really going deeper into the layers of that onion and to see what is it actually underneath that's stopping. Because Chet, I know many here do a lot of personal development. They do, and we do that within Arts Dynamics too. We talk a lot about limiting beliefs, and we have different exercises. So people might say, and even myself is like, I don't feel shame or guilt around money. I love money. Bring me money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you can still have blockages. So I guess.
I think the key difference is, Sophie, because I come in from a background of deep personal development and healing work too. Yes. And it was through that healing work, I'd encountered money quite directly many times in that healing work. What we've found is it's really, what do we want here? We want money in, right? And the problem is we want this money and it's really important to us. And we're saying it's really important to us. And it is probably the most important thing. And it's the thing that keeps us up at night. Yet what we are not doing is putting money first, putting money first. And what I mean by that is directly encountering, directly meeting and focusing on money, consciousness, understanding of money, what money is, what money means, what's our relationship with money, just as we would do with anything else. Like if you were to, let's take this to nutrition for a second, right? Just to show that if people are thinking like, oh my God, Chet, this sounds crazy. Well, look, this is what we see, that this might be more tangible as an analogy, right? That, okay, what happens in food and in nutrition? And those of you who are, holistically inclined, as many of you are, will recognize this, that you go through loops with food oftentimes, right? So you'll maybe want to lose weight. And in order to lose weight, you'll apply some tactics to it. You'll go on this diet or that diet, and you'll use this strategy, and you'll do this cleanse or whatever it might be. But what happens invariably with these diets is that they work for a moment, money-wise, you make some cash for a minute. And then inevitably what happens is that you kind of finish that current cycle. And because we haven't looked at what's at the root, you find yourself back in the same circle. Maybe you put that weight back on. Maybe, like the same habits come back again. Maybe you just find yourself in the same loop with maybe an incremental amount of progression. And what does it take? What does it take? And I know this through many health and fitness and nutritionist friends. What does it take? It takes examining your relationship with food. It's like, okay, why am I reaching for that food when I'm feeling like this? What do my rhythms and routines look like around food in my day life, in my daily life, in my weekly life, in my, in how that looks, and how is that causing me to move further away from my goals, or at least not attain my goals? Well, it's the same thing with money. It's the same thing. Okay, what is my relationship with money? Actually, what is my relationship with money? Not the relationship that I know, but the relationship that I don't even know, because that's the one that's driving us staying around in these loops. Cool. Okay. How can we then use that information to create a better day-to-day, week-to-week relationship with money, like we create with food, rhythms and routines that allow us to move closer to our goals with money? And what we've found is, look, this is deep work, but it doesn't have to be like hard and long and heavy. Actually, it just takes a commitment to like, oh, Chet, actually, you know what? You're making some sense here. This is something that is really important. I do find myself going around in the same loops with money, mentally, emotionally, and tangibly as well. Like I had the money patterns that are appearing in my life. Maybe you make money and then you spend it all again. There's lots of stuff that is symptomatic of these patterns. Okay, cool. Okay, I see you're onto something, Chet, here. I do need to put money first. I do need to understand my relationship with money. From that place, we can do so much. And I will take it to the house, to like one layer of house to wrap this up, because I can feel the craving for this in this space. So look, to zoom out, if we are to evolve, if we are to level up in our money, if we're to level up in our business, if we are to break free from the patterns that have held us back for so long, then what do we get to realize? That there are patterns that are holding us back. And we get to understand that, like, that is the first step in the transformational process, right? To realize that we're stuck in a story, that we're stuck in a loop, that we're stuck in a pattern. Okay, cool. The second is to realize that once we do the work to break out of these patterns, that we need to allow ourselves the freedom to not get stuck in loops and structures that don't feel right to us, that don't allow us to be in our full expression, that don't allow us to gift our greatest gifts to this world, that don't allow us to get paid the most for our work, which means that we get to treat business like something that is alive. We get to treat technology like an alive co-creation. What does that mean? Well, it means that maybe you've been taught that you need to bring people through your business funnel in a certain way, right? That you need to do X, and then when you bring people in and when you give them this, then that means that they're going to do this, and then you can have like this evergreen thing that is just like that is static, and that you make money from, and you make some passive income, and that allows you to work on your craft. Well, to me, that doesn't make sense, because if our work is alive, if our energy is alive, if all of this is about bringing our passion through and our power through and our purpose through and getting paid for it, then our business ecosystem needs to reflect it. So the more that we treat business less like a machine and more like an ecosystem, like what happens in nature, the more that we are getting onto something here. So rather than trying to plan out a 5-year funnel of passive income, we get to look at what is the next thing that we get to do. And I know this is the question you're asking, what wants to emerge now? And rather than clickbait and tripwires and capturing leads and all that horrible language that we're talking about, squeezing conversions and micromanaging, what are we talking about here? We need a business system that is structured, but it also allows us to bring soul and spirit into this. We need masculine embodied understanding of how to bring people through a system, but not a system that forces them through a particular way of doing and being in a particular timeline, but in a way that allows us to meet them with our very best work in the moment and allows them to do this in their own way in their timeline. So this is the new way of doing work. This is what we said in the title. This is where every offer, every event, every offering, every idea, every community, every membership, every member, every piece of this is part of a living, evolving ecosystem where you get to bring your greatest, latest ideas and evolution to your people in a way that's alive. It has energy, and that's what people pay for, in a way that they see that you are continuing to evolve and express and explore at your fullest. And it's not about buying a thing then, it's about being part of your world. It's about being part of your ecosystem. It's about being in your energy, and it's about buying things along the way that then allow them to continue their journey with you. Rather than piece by piece, rather than super structured, rather than passive income, let's think in terms of energy and aliveness and emergence, because when we do that, we are literally opening up, literally, spiritually, structurally opening up the channels for money. Our business becomes a conduit for mission. And our mission, when we are doing the work that we are born to do in this world, I believe, Sophie, I believe that you believe that, to wrap this up, that, look, we all have gifts. We all have superpowers. And we are, I believe, on this earth to take our gifts and deliver them to our people in a way that serves at our greatest possible impact, power, capacity. Like, what is our contribution to this world? And I believe that we are divinely guided and supported in this. And I believe that we have autonomy in this too. And I believe that when we do the work to be in our highest expression, when we do the work to be channels and conduits of creativity, of cash, conduit of cash flow, how's that? Conduit of cash flow, channels of our work, channels of our mission, channels of our art. And when we do the work to allow that to flow through our system most freely, and our systems in our business most freely, because that is honestly what I believe makes this work flow through us, flow out into the world, and lets money flow in. It's all the same thing. Then that's what we're here for. And if we want this to be easeful and flowing and aligned and continue to be like that, then we get to recognize that we're not in this game alone, that we are supported in this, that we're supported by our mentors, we're supported by those around us, and we're supported by God in our ventures. And God will always support our path of highest mission and highest expression, right? And it's on us, it's our role to at those crossroads where we find ourselves in this, okay, do I serve? Do I find the way to continue to push the boundaries of expression, exploration, experimentation, evolution? Because that is the way that I know I can be of greatest contribution. Then God will always put those opportunities in front of us, and it's on us to continue to choose the path of highest alignment, and God will help us to do that too. And that if we do, and if we continue to pursue that, then that's when we do find that money comes to us, that opportunities come to us, when we have this internal system and the external business systems that allow for all of that to happen. And that's it.
Yeah. That's it. And it's really just the beginning as well. What you just shared is so powerful. The word that came to me, Chet, was surrender.
Mm-hmm.
We started by talking about sacrifice, and we are ending on the notion of surrendering into something higher carrying us, the feeling of being held. And another thing that came to mind when you talked was, you said put money first, which maybe we think we do, but maybe we don't because of various reasons. But also just like in health and in wellness and in sports, with food, we can get addicted to stress, addicted to dopamine levels. We can be addicted to a certain kind of a lifestyle.
Absolutely.
I know that for myself, when I started with my own training, with the Muay Thai training, I stopped eating sugar, moved into a keto diet. And suddenly it was like moving away from a gasoline car into an electric car. Everything just became quiet and the whole system quieted down. The whole nervous system became quiet and calm and peaceful inside as well. And what I'm picking up from what you're saying is also how, by doing what you just shared so powerfully, it's also about shifting the fuel. So instead of pushing and being forceful and doing all of that, instead do what you just shared, which is more like align yourself, lean into something. And if you do have faith, which I know many in our community do, I do too, we feel that we are being carried by something higher than ourselves. And to trust and to have faith and to move with that also opens up doors we weren't even aware were there in the first place.
Yes.
So money in that sense is a highly spiritual thing. And you very beautifully explained, and I think this is where the disconnect is for many artists, is, as you said, it's living and it's breathing and it's circular, it's this circulation. Whereas business and technology and money can feel very static and very, very dead.
And separate, yeah.
And separate, yeah. So I just want to say thank you so very, very much for being so vulnerable and to share so much from your heart today. And I really hope that for whoever is listening to this, that whatever is coming your way, whether you're being triggered by something we're talking about, because that could very well be the case, I'd say make a note of the triggers from this conversation. But also if you have that divine spark based on this conversation too, maybe you have an idea, you have an urge, you have a sense, a flicker of something, could be just a fraction of a second even from what just Chet shared. Pay attention to that little voice, that little spark, because that's often where transformation happens. That's at least what I've come to see from my own journey.
Yeah, and so if I could leave them with just one more sentence, it's like, you don't got to sacrifice, you don't got to choose. We can have growth and grace. We can have structure and surrender. We can have visibility out in the world through vulnerability and intimacy. So for me, this isn't about choosing or picking a lane or sacrificing. And I just want to come back to right where we started, which is stop selling yourself short, slicing yourself up, and cutting yourself into pieces of yourself and parts of yourself, because that's who you think you have to be and how you think you have to be in order to sell and in order to show up and in order to be seen and in order to be understood and received and recognized. And everything that we're talking about here ultimately comes to wholeness. If we can hold the wholeness of the experience, if we can hold the wholeness of ourselves, if we can see money and technology and entrepreneurship and arts as something that is all part of the same game and the same puzzle, which is understanding who we are, expressing that, having other people receive that, and continuing that cycle, then that's how we get paid. And that's how we get paid for being ourselves in ourselves at our fullest, which is the best freaking feeling in the whole wide world.
Oh boy. And I say amen to that. Oh boy, we have a comment, big questions and big answers. Thanks for this inspired session. Also, thank you by peel off many layers of blockage for me. It did for this person. I didn't realize it was possible to receive so much value information. So impressive, he says. Thank you, Tobias. Really appreciate you. Oh, Chet, I am so glad we did this. And you and I have an announcement to make today as well. So for anyone who's felt like, yeah, this is kind of my language. I kind of like the whole idea of building a life and business around who I am and my natural talents and gifts and what I'm passionate about. Well, I've got really good news for you. We are so grateful and so honored and so excited about being able to announce that Chet is actually joining us and will come and do more things with us around the things that we've just discussed. We are building a top stellar team of mentors and coaches and advisors within the Arts Dynamics community. People who are at the very top of their game and who understand both sides, the inner world and the outer world and the spiritual world. So Chet, it's such a, I can't wait to dive deeper into this with you. Do you have anything you want to say on that note before we wrap up?
That isn't this exactly what this is all about? Like this, this co-creation, Sophie, that we are forming that allows both of our work to be amplified and multiplied through the nature of this collaboration in terms of the topics that we're talking about, in terms of the people, like the people in the reach of who we can talk to about this. Yeah, this is what fuels me. This connection and co-creation together, where we both operate in our strengths and our superpowers to serve the people who need the combination of all of that the most, which are the people in your community.
Yes, and we have this from Pelle. Always a pleasure. Thank you, Pelle, so much for joining us today. Chet, where can people find more information about you?
So we're on LinkedIn, or they're started on LinkedIn anyway. If you head over to my LinkedIn profile, there's everything there. If you are if this was speaking your language, you want to talk more about how to connect your values, your voice, your vision, your value, then you can join my newsletter. We have more of these discussions. If there's a particular subject that really interested you, so if we're talking about superpowers or money or freedom, like a freedom first business, there's free and paid trainings. Again, the link's on my LinkedIn. Otherwise, yeah, connect up through Sophie, connect up through, you can book a one-to-one call with me. And we're going to be doing stuff here together. So watch this space.
I'm so excited about that. Thank you, Chet, so much. We'll obviously share the information in the show notes afterwards. This live stream that we're doing today is also being turned into a podcast version, a replay on Spotify. Members can access it within our membership area. And yeah, as we said before, this is really just the beginning to open up a conversation. And it is possible to talk about faith and money and business and creativity and technology and future impact and all the things that we've discussed, and so, so much more. I also would love to hear from everybody here. What has been your biggest takeaway? What is coming up for you? I know from experience that when you open up to these kinds of questions that we've discussed, it can also open up sometimes painful memories. It can open up some rather painful processes inside of us. And I want you to know, and I know I speak for both of us here today, that we're not here to just crack you open and leave you hanging. It's actually the opposite. And again, I get the chills. I feel that this is important to say before we wrap up fully today. If you feel opened up today, if things do come up for you, you really are not alone. You can connect with Chet through his channels, via our channels. He said it, we will do more things together. Because this is, I think, and speaking of the house as well, which we also discussed, is like, okay, so how do we do it? We'll figure that out together too as a community. That's the whole point of this community anyway, to learn from each other, to share what's working, to share what's not working. But the inner workings, the things behind the scenes that we don't talk about, I felt that it was important to address that. And Chet and I had a discussion about this talk where we said that we need to talk about this first, because if we get this right, then the technical bits and bobs will be way easier. We first need to find our own true north and align ourselves. So with that, I wish you all very welcome back next Thursday again. It's the same time. We're doing these lives during the summer. And I will be speaking with a fantastic woman who's coming in, Shayna, who is a win woman. And you might wonder, what is a win woman? Well, it is someone who is helping us to network properly and to connect with other people and to know not only how to present ourselves to new groups of people, but also create that sacred space for our own events, for networking gatherings, or any function really where there are people involved, and to make it inclusive and fun and enjoyable for everybody there. And I can wholeheartedly really recommend that you join that too. So with that, Chet, thank you so much. It's been a blast. So grateful. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and see you again next week. Over and out.